There's the music. You know what time it is. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. So I am finally back in the country. Robbie, you're pleased to see me, no doubt. You can see actually it's daylight outside, so not doing the show at 10 o'clock at night. You know, this is great. I'm loving it. So let's see what happened over the weekend. Oh, I know. A rogue judge appointed by Barack Obama decided that he was not only going to tell the president of the United States that he cannot do anything with his own Department of Treasury, but also that the work done by DOGE so far would have to be erased. All records, copies, and whatnot destroyed by order of this Judge Engelmeyer there in the Southern District of New York. So let me just, I need to get into this because, of course, I think, one, of course, I'm an attorney, so I'm nerding out about it a little bit. It's almost such an outrageously bad decision that it does not exist in any legal gray area. You know, people have been asking me, Sam, well, conceivably, is there something that this judge could do, right? Is this within the scope of his powers to make this decision? And the short answer is no. I mean, that's the, look, folks, I can't tell you that you have three branches of government, and the Treasury, of course, falls underneath the executive branch. So you have a Treasury Secretary, okay, Besant, who was just, you know, approved by Congress, is fully vested in his position. And he has been by order of this judge, because if you look at it, it says any political appointees, includes the Treasury Secretary himself, cannot look at this information, are barred from making any changes at the Department of the Treasury. You know, you can't do that. You cannot have the legislative branch tell the executive that that the president doesn't have access vis-a-vis his agents and his own cabinet secretary. So no, there's no gray area here. And in a just universe where this judge might be held to account, again, this is a federal judge, so he absolutely could be impeached in the Senate, although it's, you know, would require a few Democrat votes, be a little bit tricky to get it. You know, but this is just outrageous. Okay, so disabuse yourself of any, you know, colorable argument that this judge could have. And by the way, this order is so light. I'm looking at it, you know, it's 4 pages all in. That includes the headers and signatures. It's so light. In the middle of the night, Saturday night, this crap comes down. So where do we go from here? Well, obviously, Team Trump is going to appeal the order. They've mentioned that they maybe will just disregard it. I think, you know, I think that actually is something that they ought to do. They shouldn't advertise it out loud, but they certainly ought to do it. I have to say, another part of this that fascinates me is there's a piece on this. There's a piece on this that caught my eye, and I'm trying to figure it out here, Robbie. My stack of stuff. As ProPublica did a bit on this. So they basically go in and said, you know, when Trump and DOGE and Elon Musk, when they went into USAID, because trust me, this applies to to the Treasury, and the Treasury is the holy grail because that's where all the payments are. This is why, you know, Team Trump seized control over the Treasury, because they had to stop these ridiculous, bogus payments from going out. And even with the extraordinary measures that Team Trump was taking, they still had money sort of flit out the door. There was just an article today about this, New York Post, mentioning about $59 million was sent out by FEMA to luxury New York City hotels. These are 4-star hotels that have been housing illegal immigrants and have had contracts with FEMA to do this. Outrageous. Our tax dollars, federal tax dollars, going to house illegals in extraordinary conditions. Anyway, this payment, obviously, Trump comes in and says there's a freeze on all these payments. And the bureaucrats behind the scenes that are still there, the deep state actors, do it anyway. So this is why seizing the Treasury and having full control over Treasury is important, because without the payments, right, you can't do very much. And this is why the libs chose the Treasury to be their first focus in terms of this lawfare that no doubt they're going to wage for the foreseeable future. So now back to this piece I read in ProPublica. They said basically the people, Trump's, the first wave of people through the door at USAID told the staffers there, hey, just so you know, we don't really care, because the president has a high tolerance for legal risk. And the writer of the piece, the premise of the article is like, oh my gosh, see, Trump doesn't care if he breaks the law because he's so beyond the norm, so beyond the pale of anything that is acceptable in polite society. And I read it completely differently. My take on it was the 4 years of unprecedented legal warfare that the left has targeted Trump with has produced a battle-hardened warrior. The net result of all of this litigation and ridiculous, criminal prosecutions of Donald Trump and his inner circle have just made everybody battle-hardened, because guess what? They came at Trump with everything. They literally targeted Trump with, every bit of legal arsenal they had: Department of Justice, a state attorney general, 2 powerful county prosecutors, blah, 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 everything at Trump, and he survived it. Not only survived it, he was reelected and is now president of the United States. So Trump's team basically waltzes in now and says, hey, oh yeah, you're going to sue us. Yeah, eat it. I don't care what you tell us. We literally do not care what you have to say about this. Team Trump, we are battle hardened. We have been through the ringer. You've put us through the ringer, so we really don't care. And the libs are missing this. They're missing the most glaring consequence of the fact that they went for tried to take out the king and failed, is now the king really has, unlike I would say any president before him, has a very expanded sense and I'll say this, I think contempt for the judicial process that has been abused by Democrats now for several years. So it's, what's going to happen here? I think Team Trump's going to, they're already appealing it. This order is going to get overturned. It'll eventually go to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has to weigh in on this. It's just basic, con law, constitutional law 101 on how this gets sorted out. But, and I don't even think that they're going to score political points. But I'll say this, and I want to answer this when I come back from the break, because I've had a few people email me here over the last little bit saying how concerned they are about Trump and Musk and these teenagers, these teens that are part of DOGE. For example, Mr. Big Balls, if you haven't caught up on this, apparently one of the DOGE members made some comments online under the pseudonym Big Balls, has now become a butt of some jokes. Regardless, you all are freaking out about this idea of them having access to your personal information. And I want to address this, because I look, and I'm a privacy-minded person. You know how I feel about this. And if I felt that our information was being compromised I don't care that it's Trump. I'll be the first to criticize it. But I think we're missing the big picture here and the big point. Some of you are letting yourselves get riled up by the media. Don't do that. Don't let them get to you. Please, please, please stay tuned. I want to address this point. It's very, very important. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. My email, sam@samandashlaw.com. And on Twitter, formerly known as, right, I am at What's Right Sam, at What's Right Sam. Follow me there. Okay, be right back after this. The What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash. Injury law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, great to be here with you. Back in the country for my week abroad. I'm sorry about Friday. I just, I tried, but I had a very, very busy day, and it was wild. So some of you have been emailing me. In fact, let me see. I've got a couple of these emails here, and I want to respond to each of you individually as best as I can. But got an email from a listener, Erla, last week, and obviously, Erla, very happy to have you listening. I did respond to you, by the way, just before the program today, and and again, Erla's saying here, I'll just read this to you. I listened to your show, and I'm concerned about this whole Elon Musk accessing all of our personal data, including Social Security payments, Medicare, Treasury, bank account, home addresses, and so much more. Can you please explain this to me and how this will affect us and what we need to do to protect our information from him? I'm disappointed that President Trump would allow this. Okay, Erla. Let's talk about this real fast. And I gave you some quick reasons when I responded, but I want everybody to hear this. If you think right now, well, a year ago, let's say, during the Biden administration, 8 years ago during Obama, if you think that your personal information is safe with the federal government, I think you're taking crazy pills. Okay. The issue with, as I see it, with going through all this information, right, is actually I see the net result of DOGE doing its thing is our information in the long run is going to be a lot safer. But before I get to that, I wonder what President Trump himself would have to say about anyone claiming that their personal information used to be safe before Elon Musk came around. Do any of you remember how Trump's tax returns were leaked? Remember the story? Because it's all a matter of fact. I mean, there was a guy that was convicted of it, right? And who was he, right? There's a guy named Charles Edward Littlejohn. He's 38 years old. He's a DC guy, and he gave Trump's tax returns to the New York Times. By the way, gave it also to ProPublica, and that was between 2018, something like that, 2020. And the guy, they found the guy, of course, they arrested him and put him in prison, which is absolutely appropriate. But the issue here is, okay, so who was he? And he was a contractor that apparently, for the others, had unlimited access to the point of being able to get a VIP, presidential tax return. Now, what nobody's, stopped to think about when they were, talking about the story, because, of course, the mainstream media, the way they treated this was like, see, the system worked. We found the guy and we put him in prison for 5 years. Like, what else do you want? Sort of looking at us like we're all idiots. my take on it was at the time, how is it possible that some, crappy lib dude, working, some schlubby, job as a contractor for not even in the government, but a private entity who is sublet by the government to do work, okay, subcontracted to do work. How is it possible that this person could access the President of the United States tax return? I think it is just a glimpse of how disastrous the system is. Social security numbers are, you know what Elon Musk found out? Because, by the way, he has access. You know what he found out? That the IRS, the Social Security Office, the tax ID numbers in the IRS Social Security Office, that they allow for duplicate entries. So what's your, well, you don't have to say it, okay, but we all know what our social is, right? Imagine that there is nothing built into the system that doesn't immediately check for and correct for any duplicate entries. Multiple people could be using the same social security number. And why? It's one part, of course, incompetence, because our government is incompetent, because the people that are there are overpaid, and don't do work. But the other part of it is intentionally designed to be abused. It is intentionally designed in a way to allow for illegal immigrants to steal people's identities. And finally, Trump is doing something about this and is putting smart people in there who, yes, are data-oriented, are tech-oriented. Saw somebody the other day say, well, what if this was a real audit, as Trump says? If this was a real audit, they would hire PricewaterhouseCoopers or one of the, big three accounting firms to come in and do it. I've been saying this now for a few weeks. If you turn this over to a big firm like that, it would take years to complete. It has to be done differently. It has to be done using tech, programming, AI. We have to comb through millions and millions of records and clean this thing up quickly. And I'm sorry, I trust Elon Musk way more than I trust whatever Democrat, infested crony, auxiliary, some contractor based in Washington, D.C. And if you think that our data was not exposed, abused before Trump, then I'm sorry, I think that's tremendously naive. And I never want, folks, I never want to pick on any one of you in particular. Earl, please, I don't mean to pick on you in here. I'm just reading the email because I think you're getting yourself psyched out by the media narrative. And you'll hear them say this. All of the critics right now are out there screaming, the data, our private data. And it's freaking people out because we're already conditioned to be concerned about identity theft and et cetera, that kind of thing. But I have a lot more faith in a small group of high-level, tight-knit people going in and cleaning things up than I do about, the vast, unaccountable government bureaucracy that's been in charge of this mess for decades. I have no faith in our mess of a bureaucracy at all. So that's just, look, and right. And again, if we'd hired PricewaterhouseCoopers to do this audit, I don't think, Robbie, you're right. I don't think anybody would blink an eye. Nobody would have a problem. Well, it's just some big, and there'd be people that would misuse the information there for sure. Because there would be 1,000 cooks in the kitchen. They would throw a giant amount of manpower on it. Somebody somewhere would do something. The risk of that is higher. I mean, not guaranteed, but it's much more possible, much more likely. So I don't understand. I really do not. You have to follow me on this. Can you imagine that has been up until now relatively easy to just duplicate, let's say your or my social security number to present it as your own? And there's nothing in the federal database that really catches that. I can't help but thinking that that is there done by design. And the fact that everybody is freaking out on the left about this tells me everything I need to know, tells me that Trump is right over the target. The gravy train, as they knew it, is coming to an end. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. You're listening to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Welcome to the What's Right show. Quick update. Speaking of lawfare, as you know, of course, Trump beat back all of these cases. And with him in the presidency, certainly the federal cases are done. There's still a smattering of state cases against him that will, get resolved. But there's one against my friend John Eastman in Arizona. This is the Arizona electors case, a very similar case to the one that was brought against the folks here in Nevada by Attorney General Aaron Ford. And in this case, a new judge came along and he just ruled that the case ought to be dismissed under anti-SLAPP. That basically, Eastman's role in this as counsel, he was allowed to have the positions that he had under the First Amendment, and that using the power of the Arizona judiciary to stop or to enjoin Eastman from having his opinions basically was an interference in his First Amendment rights. So this is a huge ruling, and look to other courts following the lead on this and perhaps making these cases go away. It's unbelievable that all these years later, 4 years later, these cases are still moving through the courts. So many lives ruined by these crazy, insane Democrat attorney generals and county prosecutors. Unreal. Okay. So here is, and we're talking, of course, about this crazy judge in New York, in the U.S. Southern District of New York. This is a federal judge. Engelmeyer is his name. The district court, by the way, federal court, this is the trial court level. So, this is the lowest level. Well, he's not a magistrate, but it's the lowest trial court in the federal court system. So there are, levels, of course, above this judge is going to get appealed very quickly. And Trump will prevail. I mean, there's just no universe in which under separation of powers where thank you. Yes, the judicial branch of government can interfere between a president and his cabinet secretary. Literally, this judge goes, any political appointee, which presumably would include the cabinet secretary himself, can't see at the systems inside the Treasury Department. Yeah, so Scott Besson apparently can't do any of his job. He just needs to pack it up and go home. That's what the left, by the way, wanted. They wanted Trump's people to just come in and not do anything. They are so used to Republicans acting this way. And when Trump came in the first time, he had no clue about how any of this worked. And he surrounded himself by people who he thought were knowledgeable in, the way things, work in DC. And it turns out some of them were a little too knowledgeable, and they were all go along, get along people. And they advised him, no, this is how it is in Washington. We don't know. We're not going to rock the boat. And so Trump, played along. And what did he get for that in return? The Democrats impeached him twice. So now Trump, 2 impeachments later, 2 federal prosecutions, state court prosecutions, civil court cases, 2 assassination attempts, literally a bullet to the head. And so he's done. He's playing for keeps, and it's great. So Stephen Miller, who is the top level person here in the White House, it was sat down. I think this was with Maria Bartiromo, and this is Sunday, yesterday. And he goes, look, Trump's trying to shrink the bureaucracy. And this decision that he's referencing here. He says exactly how radically idiotic it is. So again, Stephen Miller here yesterday on Fox News.
A radical left judge said that the Secretary of the Treasury cannot access the Treasury computer system. This isn't just unconstitutional. That ruling is an assault on the very idea of democracy itself. What we continue to see here is the idea that rogue bureaucrats who are elected by no one, who answer to no one, who have lifetime tenure jobs, who we would be told can never be fired, which of course is not true, that the power has been cemented and accumulated for years, whether it be with the Treasury bureaucrats or the FBI bureaucrats or the CIA bureaucrats or the USAID bureaucrats, with this unelected shadow force that is running our government and running our country. Donald Trump is engaging in the most important restoration of democracy in over a century by saying that we are going to restore power to the people through their elected president and his appointed officers. That is the only way we can have true democracy in this country. You elect a president, he appoints a staff, the staff transparently carries out his orders on behalf of the whole nation. But this nonsense, where we have rogue, unelected, unaccountable, and previously unfireable bureaucrats who do whatever the hell they want, with no one telling them and no one controlling them, we're not going to let that happen anymore. We're going to have a democracy, and we're going to have an executive branch that serves the American people, that answers to the American people, and that answers the will of the American voter.
Isn't this just fundamentally a common sense position? Right? I mean, do we understand? And let's, right, I mentioned at the top of the hour this absolute scandal unfolding, that after Trump himself ordered his agencies to stop funding any illegal immigration, and specifically gave this order to FEMA, there were bureaucrats there inside FEMA that authorized a $59 million payment to New York City luxury hotels that continue to house illegal immigrants. Now, I see a lot of people screaming right now on the left about how we have a constitutional crisis. Don't you think that the real crisis is that there are people inside of the executive branch that report, by way of cabinet level secretaries and their, underlings to the president of the United States, who are, disobeying orders, direct orders from the president? This is wild. And that's my answer to people like Ilhan Omar, who are, well, here's Ilhan Omar right now. It's exactly this, her over the weekend complaining that there's a constitutional crisis at hand, that, this just is Trump run amok and it needs to be stopped.
Yeah, I mean, what we are witnessing is a constitutional crisis. We are seeing an executive branch that has decided that they are no longer going to abide by the Constitution in honoring Congress's role in the creation of the agencies, in their role in deciding where money is allocated.
Oh, but money out. Congress appropriates, creates a budget, and then the executive departments decide how to spend it. If they need more money, they go to Congress. Every time I look at the news and get an update on DOGE, the update is that they have decided to spend less money. Like, how is that a problem? How is that a constitutional crisis? How is that something that doesn't benefit us, the people? The reason they're all screaming and squealing like stuck pigs is because that's exactly what they are. They're all little pigs, little piglets, some of them hogs, feeding at the trough of the federal government. And the real scandal here, by the way, the 59 odd million that went out after Trump's order to stop making these payments. I mean, that, of course, is those are criminal charges against just automatically against the people who did that. But the other problem is, there's hundreds of millions they've discovered. There's reporting now. Brianna Morello's gone deep on this, and look, FEMA has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on illegals over the past 4 years, and that's just one agency. That's not even all the NGOs. In total, it is billions of your tax dollars, my tax dollars, that have flown out the window for all of this hostile takeover of our country. Those illegals that are here, that are perhaps some with criminal backgrounds, that have, raped, murdered, stolen, committed violent crimes. Insult to injury is the fact that we've had to pay for it. Quite literally, like literally foot the bill. This is the legacy of the last administration. I mean, this is treasonous, what Biden did. And we're sitting here arguing about, DOGE, I got big balls in there, looking at line items. It's exactly who I want. I said this last week. I want young, untainted, unjaded, smart, tech-savvy people sorting through this stuff. I want savant, high-level autists in there coding and sorting through this nonsense, because nothing will hide from them. We're done doing things the traditional way, because the traditional way, when we were headed for absolute bankruptcy, there was not going to be a country left. Who thinks that any of this was sustainable? The only people that were getting rich off of this, the only people that were benefiting from the system were these people running these NGOs. And it's a revolving door, right? So you're in government, you're in Congress, you appropriate money for these, you send money out to the, to the executive branch. The executive branch then goes and what does, that we're going to send it out to this group and that group, Catholic charities, whatever, and then they turn around. And when the politician is out of office, or the husband or the wife of the politician lands a cush job for hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, working for one of these NGOs. And why do we need NGOs to do this? Why is it? I mean, it's all funded by the government. Bill Ackman today was asking this question. I guess I didn't realize how many NGOs there are and that they're all funded by the government. Why do we have them? Must be, only reason is so that we can government money out without the same level of accountability that we would have if it were a government agency administering the funds. Think about that. This has been a massive fraud on the American people. And it doesn't even, at a high level, it doesn't even matter if the money is quote unquote for a good cause or not. I'm not even arguing about the fact that we're teaching shrimp to, walk on a treadmill, or we're getting, trans ballet in Chile. Okay. I don't give a rip what the cause is. It's waste. And it's clear to me that these NGOs, right, half the money goes to, it's worse than the teachers unions, right? Half the money goes to whatever, and the rest goes to salaries, perks, travel. And Republicans, listen, I'm not even, this is not just a Democrat issue. Disavow yourselves of that. There are Republicans who have participated in this, who have fed themselves at the trough of government excess and unaccountability. Shame on every participant of this. I've mentioned to you, this is what I find so depressing about visiting D.C. The Smithsonian's beautiful and everything, and you see the National Mall and can't help but feeling patriotic and the history and everything, but go into the suburbs. Rows and rows of $1 million homes. What kind of business are these people in? Most of them are just in the business of raping us, the tax-paying slobs out there, working our monies off across the country and paying taxes. That's the industry. That's what they do. It's a complete and total scam. And I'm so happy it's getting cleaned up. Sam Mirejovsky, be right back after this. Well, this is comical. Yeah, I mean, Democrats apparently, their response to Trump trying to shut down various agencies is to shut down the government. Yeah, that's right. Andy Kim, a senator, says he's open to shutting down the government if Trump continues dismantling agencies. Oh no, please do anything but that. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Great to be here with you as always. Now, of course, I'm back in the country, so it feels good to be doing the show not at 10 o'clock at night as I was last week. So I appreciate your patience with me as I was on the road. Here's Trump. He did an interview, sit-down interview with Bret Baier. This is the pre-Super Bowl interview, and it took place on Sunday. Now, Trump, incidentally, before the game, they aired only a very short, I want to say it was about 5 minutes of the interview, and then there's more of it that's airing today. And this is, I think this is the part that's aired today. But regardless, here is a question by Baier about the lawsuit that was filed by the attorneys general in the 19 states, right, all suing Trump over his plans to dismantle the deep state. And the judge in the Southern District of New York who put in that ridiculous injunction. It's a great response by Trump. Some have characterized it as him being surprised by the question about Elon Musk. You be the judge.
19 states' attorneys general filed a lawsuit, and early Saturday, a judge agreed with them to restrict Elon Musk and his government efficiency team, DOGE, from accessing Treasury Department payment and data systems. They said there was a risk of irreparable harm. What do you make of that? And does that slow you down on what you want to do?
No, I disagree with it 100%. I think it's crazy. And we have to solve the efficiency problem. We have to solve the fraud, waste, abuse, all the things that have gone into the government. You take a look at the USAID, the kind of fraud in there.
And you've found significant things.
Well, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of money that's going to places where it shouldn't be going, where if I read a list, you'd say this is ridiculous. And you've read the same lists, and there are many that you haven't even seen. It's crazy. It's a big scam. Now, there's some good money, and we can do that through any one of a number. I think I'd rather give it to Marco Rubio over at the State Department. Let him take care of the few good ones. So I don't know if it's kickbacks or what's going on, but the people, look, I ran on this, and the people want me to find it. And I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him to do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. But I campaigned on this, Brett.
And he's right. Remember? He literally campaigned with Elon Musk, and the two of them would get up and do rallies and say, we're going to unleash Elon's Department of Government Efficiency. We're going to get DOGE in to clean things up. And the crowds went wild and they voted for Trump. That's what makes all of this so ridiculous. The people that are upset here are the beneficiaries of the basically unregulated government slush fund that you and I were funding through our hard-earned tax dollars that were stolen from us every year. You know, I'm seeing a lot of people online get very, very upset. They go, look, I see how these people have been living now. Because if you start to follow this, I mean, do this at your own peril, because you're going to start to get very depressed. You will see that there are people inside the government who have been for years, well, or these NGOs, non-governmental organizations, who have been bilking, millions and millions of dollars in compensation from taxpayer funds for the most ridiculous, lame, loser work. And you and I are killing ourselves to eke out a living. And it goes, by the way, it goes hand in hand with the story that also came out today about Biden's job numbers. All of his job numbers, it was all made up. It all got adjusted down. All the new jobs that Biden supposedly created disappeared except for government jobs. Turns out that all the job creation under Joe Biden came in the federal bureaucracy. And Trump's cleaning that up. By the way, one of those unelected deep state bureaucrats at USAID complained to CBS News. And they even altered his voice, put a screen over his face, treated him like he was some sort of whistleblower on the, Medellin cartel. Well, yeah, I'm going to play this. It's like 2 minutes of glorious whining. Just wait for it, folks. Grab some coffee and join me after the break. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Okay, who saw the Super Bowl? I flew in yesterday. I got to the house just in time, started watching the big game, and promptly started feeling tired. So I got 9 hours ahead, so the game started with 3:30, and I wanted to get the Trump interview in. I wanted to see him on Fox with Brett Baer. So I got that and then caught the game. And of course, the first thing that struck me was the unmistakable roar from the crowd when Trump went on the Jumbotron during the national anthem. Oh, I didn't think the national anthem was great at all. I'm not into overly fancy renditions of the anthem. I don't know about you. I like it when it's just a solid, belting of our hymn. I love it. So, give me the golden pipes, right? Parnell here in Las Vegas at the Golden Knights games. That I love. I'll do that all day long. So I thought that was okay. But anyway, people went crazy when they saw Trump. I mean, this is a different universe than we had in our country even when Trump was first elected. And this is why, CBS did a poll and they said overall that Trump has a positive approval, amid an energetic opening a few weeks. In the question, do you approve or disapprove of the way Donald Trump is handling his job as president? 53% approve. Whether or not you support him compared to what he promised in the 2024 campaign, do you feel Donald Trump so far is doing? And for the same things he promised in the campaign, 70%. Wasn't a huge part of the campaign to get rid of DEI, to trim the federal government, to bring back, a stronger, mission-focused military, right? Just for starters. He's doing it, and it's happening. This is a guy who goes, yeah, I think I'm going to get rid of the Department of Education. Now he's making moves to actually do it. People are getting the vapors. Yet is exactly what he promised to do. Which of these do you feel describes or doesn't describe Donald Trump? Okay, and here's a series of words. Again, this is the CBS poll released over the weekend. Effective, 58%. Find him effective. Focused, 60%. Competent, 55%. Tough, 69%. Energetic, 63%. Compassionate, not so much, 37%. One of these things right now that the left is trying to do, and I see it happening in the media, Trump has been last couple weekends going to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend. So he'll fly out from DC, go down to Florida, and they're going, oh, he's on vacation again. It kills me. You know, Biden slept through 4 years, like literally didn't do anything. He was asleep at the wheel. And so they literally now are saying, oh, Trump's on vacation. Trump doesn't sleep, you people. He literally, even when he's at Mar-a-Lago, he's working. He solved the whole issue with Colombia and their crazy leftist president who enjoys the company of transvestite prostitutes as a married man. So he solved that from the golf cart, you know, at his golf course down in Florida. By the way, that weekend he hosted, I think, the Republican congressional delegation. So it was, you know, kind of a working weekend. But regardless, okay. So people obviously are not buying it. Effective, focused, competent, energetic, you know. By the way, how is Trump handling the conflict in the Middle East? 54% approve. What about the efforts to deport illegal immigrants? Approval, 59%. So that gets us to the subject of DOGE. In general, how much influence do you think Elon Musk and the DOGE task force should have over the spending and operations of the U.S. government agencies? A lot, 23%. Some, 28%. So a total of a lot plus some is 51%. The not much and none is 49%. So Elon and the DOGE team are teetering at around a, 50-50 level, okay? Now I have that's not a question. I'm just going to tell you what I think. I think it doesn't matter right now what the public thinks. What matters is, what do Elon Musk and DOGE accomplish? If Elon Musk and his DOGE team actually succeeds in fixing things, delivers savings, can lower taxes for all of us paying taxes, if they create a balanced budget where we, for the first time in years, are spending less than we take in, I think they're going to be everybody's hero. I think that number is going to be, 65-35, okay? I think people are going to be like, yeah, have Elon do whatever the hell he wants. Big balls and all, okay? Just have them all do it. No problem. Keys to the kingdom. So I think for Musk right now, it's go time. He's got to deliver. If he delivers, these numbers shake out very differently. Now, the people fighting him in this, of course, it's funny that CBS News put out this poll, because I think CBS News is terrified of the results here. They're like, oh my gosh, Trump is way more wildly successful than we thought. So quickly, let's pull out some people here to help our anti-Trump case. This is what CBS News does. And what they did is they found some guy inside USAID who, was an anonymous employee. He's scared of being doxxed, meaning his identity revealed. So they have him behind this veil of anonymity, okay? If you're watching the video, you'll see it's like you can barely make out a silhouette. The voice, it's funny, when they've got the mafia guys, they always lower their voice. Oh, yes, when I was doing the hit. Did they deliberately, Robbie, make this guy's voice more gay? You be the judge.
Why in our conversation do you think you need to remain anonymous?
It has been a very hard week. Personally, professionally, as I said, I live in Washington, D.C. Many of my colleagues work in this field. Starting from January 21st, so the first day of the new administration, things started to go sideways very quickly. The atmosphere of fear that was in the USAID building, which we're no longer in, the atmosphere of fear in terms of not knowing who was in the building, not knowing what their motivations were, not knowing if our emails or channels were safe, not knowing how to interpret these executive orders, right, around DEIA or administration priorities. All of that created an atmosphere of massive insecurity. And so people have, I think, lost the ability to know what's true from what's not at this point. Everyone is really scared. And so, you know, I have a daughter. I have a family like most Americans, and I want to be brave. I think it's really important to share our personal stories at this time, but I am afraid, and I just don't want to put them at any more risk than I have to.
So this,
When you say doxed,
yeah,
there's fear of public sharing of your name and possibly targeting.
Absolutely.
By who?
by who? She sets it up. Who are you afraid of? Mr. Anonymous employee at USAID responsible for funneling billions of our taxpayer dollars to pet Democrat projects. Who are you afraid of? Oh, this brave soul working tirelessly on behalf of the Democratic Party gives her an answer.
Well, I mean, at this point, DOGE members, including Elon Musk, have access to not just the data within the USAID world, right, and the USAID system, which includes my personal email address, my social security number, my entire security file. In that security file is every contact I've ever known, every country I've traveled to, every home address I've had. And that's because I'm required to provide that information to the US government as part of my security clearance background check. They now have access to that. So my personal information is out there. Separately, DOGE is also now in charge of what's called the Office of Personnel Management, right, which is the government's HR system. They have access to the 2.3 million data sets and email addresses that they have used to send out the deferred resignation letter or the so-called buyout deal that they're trying to get federal workers to take. So no matter which way I look at it, my information is entirely compromised.
These people doxed the DOGE employees. They released their names, their information. Now they're crying about, oh, I'm going to get doxed. But they have no problem talking to the media. They have no problem in being insubordinate. Funny how they talk about the very first thing he said is that they were very afraid of what would happen the first day of the new administration. And they said not knowing what their motives were, okay? Not knowing how to interpret these executive orders right or administration priorities. See, it's not about that, any of this, right? It's all about the fact that Trump's priorities, what we voted for, what a majority of the country wanted, and Trump is executing on, these are diametrically opposed to the priorities of everybody that was working inside that building. So these people have to go. And they're not used to being told no. They have existed for decades operating with zero oversight. And by the way, these are the same people that when senators ask questions, they get threatened. All right? So no dice. Elon's going for the kill, and it's going to take a lot of unelected judges if we're going to talk about unelected people. A lot of unelected judges, and they still won't be able to stop this. Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
The Sam & Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Over the weekend, Axios reported that there was a real threat from Iran on Trump during the campaign. Apparently, even Iran was working with some surface-to-air missiles that they had managed to smuggle into the country to target Trump's airplane. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. You know, I read over this article, and of course, you know, we knew that there were significant threats from Iran on Trump during the campaign. The real story is, and Axios doesn't get into this, what the hell was Team Biden doing or not doing in the midst of intelligence, of reliable intelligence, that Iran's operatives were running amok in our country with surface-to-air missiles? I mean, you almost get the impression that the people running the last administration really wouldn't have minded if Iran had taken out Donald Trump. That's the takeaway, right? I mean, it's a scandal. You know, I really think, I'm going to make a little prediction here that in a year's time, right, 12 months from now, beginning of 2026, people are going to have a much worse idea of Biden or opinion of Biden than they already do now. Now, his opinion poll ratings are in the toilet. And I think at this point, the only thing that can rehabilitate him is death. And that may not save him. I think it's just what the HE double hockey sticks is going on. Well, you're asking me what should they have done? Oh, I don't know. Thrown down the gauntlet to Iran. Listen, political differences aside, if you touch a hair, one single strand of hair on Donald Trump's head, we will nuke you. How's that for starters? Right? I mean, I don't know, but I don't understand. It's just unbelievable. The entire administration, weak as weak can be, a complete kleptocracy, right? When you look at all these NGOs and departments like USAID spending all this ridiculous money. But look, I mean, it's and then of course I think that there was a motivation for them. You know, if Iran takes out Trump, too bad. Same way they failed to adequately protect Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, and elsewhere on the campaign trail, denying vital assets for his Secret Service detail. So this all is crazy. By the way, last 48 hours, basically back to Friday, so a little longer than 48 hours, Health and Human Services Department canceled 62 contracts worth $182 million. These were all for administrative expenses. None touched any healthcare programs. And it included the termination of a $168,000 contract for the Anthony Fauci exhibit at the NIH Museum. That's right. The National Institute of Health has a museum where they were going to do some sort of, a shrine to Anthony Fauci. This is all completely normal to them in the bubble. I've always described Washington something like the way the folks in the Capitol are depicted in the Hunger Games, right? You've got, the people out in the districts who are salt of the earth, very kind of plain people working hard, toiling. And then in the Capitol are all these people who are done up in fabulous outfits and costumes and wearing, makeup and laughing and drinking and partying and living a lavish life. That's what was going on, right? This is it. And now that somebody is going and looking under the hood, everybody is freaking out. That's what I heard, right? When I played the tape of that nameless, faceless USAID worker. Oh my gosh, we don't know what's going on. We don't know. Well, for the first time in a very, very, very long time, this person who has been getting paid a very, I'm sure, handsome sum of money for taking our money and throwing it around the world on who knows what, is suddenly income insecure. They suddenly are worried about their future. But that's what we ordinary Americans have had to face. You know how many times in the past 10 years, I've had to worry about, making my business work, making my business succeed, making my tax payments, making payroll every 2 weeks, making sure my people are taken care of. I mean, this is the stress we all live under. We choose it. And listen, I'm grateful that I, have a business and that it's successful and that everything is working well. But, I'm furious that I am stressing myself to death over paying taxes. And these people have been there just absolutely wasting our precious resources. And at the same time, driving a country into debt. $38 trillion and counting. Unacceptable. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Be right back after this. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840, KXNT. I think the military recruitment crisis is going to get better pretty quickly. I saw this post on X, formerly known as Twitter. Pete Hegseth was responding directly. So this is the Secretary of Defense. All right, he is specifically responding to a guy who basically writes that he's a former Black Hawk instructor pilot, that he resigned during COVID because they forced the vaccine on him and the culture got weird, that he became a major airline pilot, of course, with that kind of qualifications, why not? And he's seriously thinking of returning to the ranks after seeing such a swift course correction. And Pete Hegseth, from his personal Twitter account, responded, "We would love to have you back." This is crazy. By the way, this is how you do it, right? First off, you've got the Secretary of Defense personally, encouraging somebody to return who seems to be, if what he says about himself is correct, be highly qualified, exactly the kind of person you want in the military. It also reminds us that how many people, we certainly lost a lot of people along the way who, left, self-selected out because, by the way, who are the people that didn't take the vaccine? Free thinkers, okay, yeah, sure. Free thinkers also, I think people who, are critical thinkers, right? Conservatives. Why we lost so many people by forcing this, and it was by design, right? Because the Biden people goes, okay, we're going to force the vaccine on the military, and the people that don't really want it, we don't want those people, right? Those are the kind of people, those are not our people. And the people that do take it, those are the people, then we've compromised them. They're willing to take orders. Those are the people that are going to suck up they'll accept the DEI. They'll just do, they'll do what they're told. I know a lot of you are saying, well, that's the military, do what you're told. I know, but you I think, understand, look, we want warriors. We want people that will run into danger. We want the kind of people that have honor and duty. Just this military thing. It's going to be fascinating. So I see it a promising turnaround there as well. And I saw the Secret Service recruiting video, which was, I think it aired during the Super Bowl. I didn't catch it actually live during the Super Bowl, but Robbie, I don't know, did you see it? It's beautiful, right? And it has, It has some of the presidents who have been assassinated or where attempts were made on their lives, like Reagan. But it's a really moving, recruitment video, and it has Trump, boarding Air Force One, and you feel good, you feel so patriotic. I think they had Michael Bay do it, is what I heard. Oh, they're turning around now. Don't despair. I have to say this. All of this, these ridiculous court, filing of lawsuits is exactly what they were going to do. This is all they've got. All they know is the left, the people that are opposing this, their standard course of action is to select Democrat-friendly judges like this guy in New York and file frivolous lawsuits. And they tried it against Trump. It did not work, and it failed. It will fail here as well. Now, because these lawsuits interfere in the smooth operation of the government and violate the separation of powers, are just, facially invalid constitutionally, I expect the appellate courts and the Supreme Court to move very quickly. Okay. So this is not going to languish for years. And I also think that Biden established a precedent of ignoring what courts have to say. He did it with his student loan giveaway. He goes, I've got this plenary power. I'm a chief executive. And the Supreme Court said, hey, not so fast. Like, you're doing such a big giveaway that this requires the approval of Congress. And he says, okay, so I'm going to break it up. I'm going to do it in pieces. So maybe that's what Trump's going to do. All right, can't fire everybody all at once. All right, I'm going to fire 1,000 of you today. Next week, I'm going to fire 2,000 of you. The week after, 1,500. Why can't he break it up? See what I'm getting at? The same people that celebrated Biden's workaround are now trying to get the same protections from the courts here. And I think it's just going to all fail miserably. Now, what is interesting, and I got to say this, is some of the things that have been coming up, and Musk was tweeting this out over the weekend. Look, he's talking about, he's talking about the DOGE team and the U.S. Treasury. We've jointly agreed, makes sense, is to do the following. Require that all outgoing government payments have a payment categorization code, which is necessary in order to pass financial audits. And by the way, he says that this has been left blank in the past. They deliberately don't label what payments are for. Like in my business, anytime I cut any check, I have to categorize what that payment is for. And by the way, if I categorize it incorrectly, I could have legal problems. Remember how the Democrats went after Trump for mischaracterizing, allegedly, the payment to Stormy Daniels? Remember that? Via his attorney? They wanted to put Trump in jail for that, right? So, same people that were yelling at Trump, how dare you miscategorize your payments, are leaving whole payments with no categorization. Nothing. Blank. There has to be a rationale for payments, okay? Now, there's a do not pay list of entities that are known to be fraudulent or people that are probable fronts for terrorist groups. Does that seem reasonable to you? Of course. So it's, that seems pretty normal. And then, the wild thing is that Musk wrote over the weekend that he learned that the Social Security databases aren't deduplicated. So you can have the same Social Security number many times over. That's wild. When you hear these Democrat congressmen screaming, get your hands off Social Security. If I am a senior American concerned about my Social Security, I would be livid that the fund that I rely on to live off of can be so easily exploited by people who do not deserve to get any kind of payments. By the way, the more this is cleaned up, the better it is for Social Security. the more secure Social Security is. This is a hugely important issue, right? Because this fraud has sort of been baked into the equation, and everybody's like, nah, we'll just pass the buck literally down the, to the next, generation. We'll kick the can down the road. Apparently, there's over $100 billion a year of entitlements payments to individuals with no Social Security number or even a temporary ID number. And Musk asked people at the Treasury if they had a rough guess of what percentage is fraud. And the consensus was about a half. So about $50 billion a year, almost $1 billion a week in fraudulent Social Security payments. So there it is. I think that's important to reform. I think that's important to look at. Now, if you're benefiting from fraud, if you're a fraudster, then of course this is bad news for you. But I think it's good news for the country. So please do not buy into this, oh my gosh, Musk has access to my personal information. This is bad news for me. It's nonsense. A lot of bad actors have access to this information. The last person in the world you ought to be worried about is Musk and his team compared to, what's been going on so far. Now, I'll tell you, those of you who are like-minded, you'll recognize that, all of this lawfare against Trump, and even I'll make a venture to guess here that the assets that were deployed to the Capitol to stir up problems, people that went in and started smashing government property, were probably paid through some of this USAID money. Meaning, when the feds wanted to take care of a problem and throw money at a problem, fund something that they couldn't have their fingerprints on, they used USAID. Every time we saw pictures of some, neo-Nazi rally, everybody wearing matching khaki pants, masked up, looking about the same, marching in lockstep, causing, a scene, getting recorded by the media. Yeah, I wonder where those checks came from. The most important thing, besides saving the country and saving money, breaking USAID means preventing the left having its usual means of lawfare and warfare against Trump and any other Republicans that might dare to be change agents in this country. So, Michael Schellenberger, of course, is a reformed Democrat, says that both USAID and the CIA were behind the impeachment of Trump in 2019. And I think it's a lot deeper than that. And based on everybody who is screaming about this, who is, getting the vapors over this stuff being turned upside down, I like I said, I think Trump is over the target, and I think this has to happen. And by the way, dittos to illegal immigration. One of the big scandals right now is there's people inside the FBI leaking ICE raid plans. We'll talk about that when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840, KXNT. So apparently, the LA Times ran a story with leaked documents saying that a large-scale immigration enforcement action was coming soon to LA. So this obviously got released by one or two or multiple FBI agents who are what? They're supposed to be federal law enforcement officers. They are what they are responsible to whom? In their executive branch, to the Department of Justice. to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. And this just is absolutely wild to give you an idea of the level of lawlessness that operates in this government. Pam Bondi on Sunday on Fox News said this.
There may be a leak inside the House as it relates to DHS and some of the operations that they are attempting to carry out. What's your reaction to hearing about that, and what, if anything, can be done to mitigate that?
Well, if anyone leaks anything, people don't understand that jeopardizes the lives of our great men and women in law enforcement. And if you leaked it, we will find out who you are and we will come after you. And it's not going to stop our mission. It's not going to stop the president's mission to make America safe again. We were very clear with the lawsuit that we filed in Chicago that if you don't follow the law, you will be prosecuted by the Department of Justice.
There it is. By the way, I'm hoping that the agents that leaked this are not in the Washington, D.C. office, perhaps somewhere else. One of the big challenges, of course, for Team Trump is going to be prosecuting these evildoers, wrongdoers in D.C. and New York and maybe L.A. and other jurisdictions where, they might have a lot of people on the jury that might not be particularly friendly to a Trump Department of Justice prosecution. One thing I will point out, this is huge, okay, I know nobody wants to be on jury duty. But look, here in Vegas, I think we have a fair amount of diversity, political diversity, okay? But if you are listening to this program and you are in New York, you are in LA, even Orange County, places basically where you could very well be called in for federal jury duty. And my recommendation, if you're conservative and you really don't like how, the legal system works after looking at what it did to Trump, say yes to jury duty. Go. Particularly for federal jury duty. The people that end up on jury duty are, folks that can afford to take the time. A lot of times, that's not a conservative person. So go to jury duty, show up, answer the questions truthfully, don't talk about politics, don't wear a MAGA hat or an American flag pin, anything. Seriously, go. Get on a jury, make a difference. It's something very specific you can do because there are some patriots in D.C. And if you're a conservative in Washington, D.C., in the next 4 years, you should be literally begging to get on jury duty and faking your way as best as you can on there. I know, of course, the defense attorneys will try to get anybody off who might be a Republican, but they can't necessarily just do that. So they'll have to try different ways. So just telling you, that's a huge thing. So this is a major problem. And by the way, you can see this is why they're dragging their feet on Kash Patel. By the way, what's the Tulsi Gabbard update, Robbie? They're supposed to have a vote to advance her out of committee any minute now. I guess it's happening. So anyway, we'll find out about Tulsi here by tomorrow. But Kash Patel dragging their feet on Kash, but he needs to get into the FBI, begin cleaning this place up. All of this nonsense about this being a constitutional crisis, these histrionics from the left, it's all projection. The constitutional crisis is that you have gross insubordination in the ranks of our federal bureaucracy, people that think that they don't have to take orders from the president. And I have a question for you. It's an honest question. Why the hell are we supposed to vote for a president in the first place? If the whole federal government is just supposed to ignore the president, according to the thinking of the left currently, ignore the president. If the president can't make changes to the federal system, if he can't fire people, if he can't, decide, where money goes to that where there's discretion on the part of the executive branch, then why do we even vote for a president to begin with? They're all screaming, all these stupid Democrats in Congress, Congress gave them this money. Well, did Congress decide which hotels in New York City get FEMA money to house illegal immigrants? Did Congress specifically appropriate that? Because the answer is no. Congress set a budget. They said for the fiscal year 2025, 2026, we give FEMA X amount of moolah. And then FEMA decides how to use it. And that discretion is part of the executive branch powers. And guess what? These people think it's their money. They think they get to make the decisions. It's not. We vote for the president. This is our decision. We, the people, vote. We pick a president, and then the president acts on his executive authority that he's given in the Constitution. I got to tell you, folks, that people have this whole thing completely backwards. And so I'm telling you, it's going to come to a head. And here's the most important thing to remember. It will get worse before it gets better. We've had a phenomenal 3 weeks, right? We're 3 weeks today since Donald Trump took the oath of office. But in these 3 weeks, things have been moving very quickly. They will continue to move quickly, but there's going to be pushback. It's normal. It's to be expected. So gird your loins, people. We're going to have some conflict. Okay. I got to wrap it up here. Top of the hour. Boy, 2 hours fly by quickly. I'll see you folks tomorrow. We'll catch up on Tulsi Gabbard. Give you some more updates on these confirmation hearings. God, I got to get this done. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT, Sam at salmonashlaw.com is my email. See you soon.